getting more people? Or? Only so many people are interested in change management. And that's why I think one of the previous speakers, he spoke about 70% of digital transformation initiatives fail, right? And one of the reasons they fail is this lack of interest in change management, right? So to begin, I think I will do a small exercise, just post lunch, and we are all quite, satisfied with the good food that we had. So what we will do, maybe we'll ask the gentleman there, Atul, can you move to that table, please? Oh, that was very quick. Very nice. Sir, do you mind coming to this table? And sir, you, is it okay if you move to maybe the third table there? Yeah, third table. So they very willingly they moved. There was no resistance to change here. That is what I wanted to show. Thank you very much. You demonstrated very good change agility, right? But generally, after 1 hour of the lunch and the sessions, you tell somebody to shift and all that, there would be some resistance. Arey, why disturb me, isn't it? So, how many people think, show of hands, that technology change management is just a consulting jargon? कुछ ऐसा कुछ खास होता नहीं है. Just technology change management is very simple. It's a consulting jargon only. How many people feel? Nobody? Well, then my session is done. If everybody feels that this is important and it's just not a technology, consulting jargon, then I think you have all understood this, right? So the agenda that was given to me had a lot of points, but I thought of just summarizing that into 3-4 aspects, right? And at the outset, I want to differentiate between what typically as CIOs and IT leaders we are concerned about, which is IT change management, and then there is the organizational change management, right? And sometimes there can be overlap, but it is important that we keep them little aside, because in some cases, like this organizational change management, it can be quite intense, because it will, let's say, lead to certain changes in strategy, technology, culture, a lot of things can be changed here. And it can be small adaptive changes, or it can be very transformative changes. The COVID kind of created that scenario for us to, drive transformational changes. And that's why one of the biggest accelerator of digital transformation is basically COVID, right? IT change management, typically in ITSM we do that, right? Incremental changes, software upgrades, I have to move them through approvals and test them and make sure they go through. So that's kind of a little, same change management, but it is little different. And sometimes technology can help in that, because a lot of tools are now available to make those decisions, whether the change is a small change and can it just be deployed without approvals, and few other changes could require certain levels of approvals and all that. So kind of, we will not talk about the right part here. That's a very academic topic. Anybody who is into change management in IT will know this, and ITSM has that framework already defined. But what challenges I'm going to talk about a little bit is on this area, because as leaders, when we implement certain things for the company, we want that thing to be successful, we want that solutions to work, we want people to adopt. And sometimes it really defies logic. I have built this beautiful application, beautiful dashboard, but still there are no takers. Nobody is using it, right? Could be that we haven't done the change management bit very well. And there are reasons why change management is such a big challenge. See, I have used this in one of my previous discussions. I thought it is quite relevant. Just to set in context, right, as humans, as we continue to evolve, right, from some few million years back when we were in the Stone Age, to Bronze Age, Iron Age, and then first industrial revolution, which happened around the 18th centuries, steam, power, and all that, and then second industrial revolution with all this industrialization, coal, steam-based things. and third industrial revolution with mechanization, robotics and all, and fourth industrialization revolution which you are right now in. And all these changes we have obviously seen and gone through. Some have adapted well, some have not adapted well. We will talk about that a little bit. But again, just to put that in context, right? What do you think is common to these companies? Are you able to, read the names? Kodak, yeah, all gone. Nokia, Yahoo, Xerox. All these companies, I mean, some of them, they still exist, but not in those avatars that they had, right? Many of them, they failed to recognize the change or implement the change internally, drive the change, even if they knew it, that, okay, I have to do this. Xerox, for example, they had the first graphical user interface, right? But they just thought, this is of no use to us. We are into photocopying, let's just stay on that. Yahoo, they had option to buy Google first, right? Then Microsoft also had offered to buy Yahoo at some $1 billion valuation. That time they thought, no. They failed to understand how in the internet world things can change very rapidly. And we saw where they stand and all that. Blockbuster. Netflix completely killed them, right? So they all failed to recognize change, adapt to change and innovate, right? And why that is happening, right? Just to correlate with my previous slide, these industrial evolutions or revolutions as they were happening, there was ample time for us to adapt. See, look at the gaps. Mechanization, 1800s, mass production, electric power, 1900, 100-year gap. Even the next one, 100-year gap. Okay? Between the industry 4.0 and 5.0, which is currently we are in, let's say, there's only 10-year gap. And we talked about in the morning itself, somebody was saying, 3 years back, we are all talking blockchain, this and that, but nobody talks about blockchain. Now it's Gen AI. Tomorrow there will be something else. Artificial AGI, artificial general intelligence, right? So the pace of change is very, very high. And as humans, it's very difficult to adapt and understand. While everybody talks about Gen AI today, how many truly can understand what is the technology, how does it work, how do I implement, how do I really get the value out of it? It's not easy, right? I mean, where is the time for you? You have your daily work, you have work outside of your office, of course, and then you have to keep up with the changes and all these learnings and all that. Many people don't understand the technology in the fullest way, and that's why somebody was also mentioning that we all talk about AI. AI is most abused. But if you ask, go deeper, okay, what is AI? What is that you have done? Then you realize, oh, they have actually just created a model. Okay, did you deploy it? Is it productionalized, or is it just an experiment? And then you realize, okay, there's not really that much of AI that they have actually implemented, right? Because you just don't have the time to go to the depth of it and understand, because the pace is that high. ChatGPT came into picture last year, right? And how many versions have now come in? Some 4.5, 5, I think, versions have come in, and it's happening too fast with all this cloud computing power that is available. Now with quantum computing, which will, further, I think, some million times increase the computing power, and with all those machines learning and understanding the world and the context and all that, the evolution is too fast, and we are not able to keep pace, and that's a big, big problem. And that's why in one of the Gartner studies last year they realized, or they found that people have reacted that in 2016, if there were 2 change events employees saw in a year, change event is significant change, right? That has gone up to how much? 10 organizational changes in 2022. 10. And that's why there is a change fatigue. And people are actually more resistant to change now because there's just too many changes. And it's true for all organizations. Even in my organization, when I'm coming in and I'm kind of saying, okay, we should do this, we should do that. What is this? That all changes only, right? Some way things will have to change. And every company which undergoes leadership change or some strategy change, and by the way, the lifespan of CEOs and CIOs is not very, high. A typical average lifespan is about 3 years, maybe max. 1.8 is kind of the average. So there is also an acronym for, or rather the expansion for CIO. Anybody would like to guess? Career is over. Because anything can go wrong in the company, you can always attribute to the CIO. So anyway, coming back, so every leadership change drives certain amount of change in strategy, change in technology in the company. Now, again, we were talking about how everybody in the business is also getting exposed to all this technology, right? Gen AI, everybody knows. So every business leader comes and asks, hey, what are you doing about Gen AI? Okay, can we implement something? I mean, just for the sake of it also sometimes, right? They may not have a use case. So they also kind of put that pressure on change. And sometimes you actually have to resist. So that, okay, this technology is not yet mature. I don't want to go and jump into this just for the sake of it, right? And that is why current change environment, employees' willingness to change has seen a 49% reduction. So now, not only that you have a higher pace of change, you have less willing employees to do the change. Because why? Because, simple term if I have to explain, employees are people too. But sometimes when we do things in the company, we just expect employees to just accept because they are employees. Management has decided why you would not accept. But end of the day, they are people, they have their own emotions. And change, any kind of change, is always a little bit challenging because it leads to some kind of a loss of power, right? I mean, something will change. I will not be in my comfort zone. Maybe I was approving earlier, now it will be auto-approved. So loss of power, right? So those kind of emotions come in. And that's why there is so much of resistance and so much of challenges we have. So end of the day, it's a people problem. Again, I think in that slide about the digital jungle, somebody said, or maybe Atul's slide had that, right? So ultimately, it's the human. The failures, digital transformation failures, is because of humans. And just again, same thing in different perspective. Technology changing like this. Look at the curve, how digital technology is changing. And our adaptability, individuals, companies, institutions. Individuals that way are still more adaptable. You have, you got ChatGPT-4, you will immediately install. You got Twitter, you got adapted. Everything you can quickly adapt. As a human being, you want to be at the state-of-the-art technology. Latest MacBook comes, you buy it. But it's not easy for companies. It's not easy for institutions. Educational institutions probably have the most difficulty in adapting. And that's why they have this, internship in companies. Because they cannot tell you what is really happening in the companies now. Because their curriculum is 40 years old. So they send the people into companies, at least you go and learn what is happening, and then that's how you kind of be ready for the industry. So that's a big problem, right? And that's why you see companies having even mainframes today, client-server systems they might be having, hybrid cloud they might be having, everything they will have. Because it's not easy for them to just adapt into the new technology. Otherwise, everybody would have just changed, right? And this is real, and that's why the technology debt, what we call, keeps on building. And only one third of major change initiatives fully meet the goal set by the company. Exactly what my previous speaker, I think Atul or somebody was also mentioning, that 70% of the digital initiatives, they fail. It's a big problem. And that's why the career is over expansion for CIOs, right? So what can we do about it? Let's just spend some time on that, right? Now what you get if you do proper change management. This is again just a study done which graphically explains, for a small project, if you manage the change well, you might get 200% ROI on that project. For a large project, if you do the change management well, the ROI is 650%, right? ROI on your change management effort, right? So imagine when you have large projects, right, the benefit of doing proper change management. We'll talk a little bit more on the change management side. Okay. I talked about new technologies coming in, you are trying to implement, but does the organization understand this technology? Do you have the people who can really, find use cases? How to create the business case for the new technology? Sometimes just jumping into things just because the CIO has to present to the board that yes, I have implemented AI, I have implemented Gen AI, they might do something. But does it have a scale in the company? Does it add to the business? Talent availability, big problem. Today's world, one of the biggest problems all of us face is this. And people are taking, of course, good advantage of this also. It's good for the candidates, multiple offers, very quick jumps, all this good stuff. But that has created a huge problem from a talent perspective. And anybody who comes in, takes at least a year or so to understand the company, understand the technology and start contributing, and by the time somebody has posted that candidate, right? Talent ability is a big problem. And that is also a reason why a lot of our projects are suffering, and change management has to address that part also. Do I have the right talent to really do these projects, right? Leadership buy-in. And when we say leadership buy-in, it's not just at a high level he understands. Does he really commit to it? Okay, is he ready to spend at least 1 hour in a month to review what's happening and course correct? Otherwise, he might say, oh, I am all with you. I am all with you, but I don't have time to go through it. Means there is no commitment. And people see that. When a CEO is reviewing a project versus he is not at all reviewing, don't you see there is a difference? And that's the kind of buy-in we are talking about. Managing the change from all these aspects, right? Participation from business, technology, support, all of these people, right? We recently implemented a travel and expense solution. We purposefully kind of made this as a HR project, not as a IT project, right? We took no credit for this. The IT was just saying that, okay, this is HR project, we are just helping them, okay? And from HR perspective, there were, of course, the travel teams which were involved, the finance teams which are, of course, involved, and all those stakeholders, some of the key users, the power users who have maximum travel and all, they were involved. So we had to explain to them how the solution is going to work, multiple trainings and all that. Even then, there was still some resistance. Oh, this, finance users may feel that, oh, it's not really that easy, and previous solution was better and things like that. But having participation at least helped that later they could not say that, okay, I have not been told what I need to change and all that, right? And sometimes from an IT perspective, when we do things, we pretty much complete the project up to 80%, and then we go and start training people. This is how it will work. Huge problem. Because by the time they will create all kind of resistance and they will start having new ideas, and then it is too late for you to implement those ideas, not going to work. So involvement from the beginning. Communicate and communicate. Unexplained change is uncomfortable, right? If I don't explain why we are changing and what we are changing, people will not accept it. Sometimes it is just pure ego also. Just pure ego. वो मेरे पास आया ही नहीं, मेरे को तो बोला ही नहीं. So communication is absolutely key to change management. Systems view of change, what I mean by this is, you have to look at holistically how it is going to impact, right? Even if it is a small OCR solution you have implemented for invoice processing, you have to do a whole source to pay kind of a cycle to explain how this will change and what are the intermediate steps that are going to change. The systemic view has to be seen, right? If it is not, the system is not improving as a whole, and only you have just changed one tire, but rest of the tires are all old and kind of crackling, you are not going to have a super fast car with you, right? So that's why the systemic view is required, and use a defined framework. Ad hoc change management is not good. Now I'm not going into details of change management framework, that will take another half an hour, 45 minutes, and it will be very boring to a lot of you. But there are defined frameworks. John F. Kotter from Harvard, he has a 8-step model. There is a ADKAR model. There are, McKinsey has a 7S model, 7-step model. There are many models. Basically address the need to recognize, how it impacts the people, how you can go about it, how you can communicate. These are different frameworks. But it's better to use the framework so that you are following a structured approach and not an ad hoc. आज मेरे को मन आया मैं change management के लिए 5 लोगों को जाके मिल के आ गया. No. Right. If you have identified stakeholders who are key to your project and you have defined a schedule that I will meet them every month, you must meet them every month. Any feedback you must go and take every month. Right? You cannot just do it in an ad hoc manner. Continual focus on the usage and ROI. Again, you have implemented, great job. Some people have taken the product forward, they are using it. But again, you need to monitor and see how it can be improved. Right? If you do not do that, again, after a few months and so, you will find that this is not being fully utilized. So many dashboards and reports end up in this kind of a fate. We prepare it, we send it out, but then nobody is using it. Later we realize reports are coming and landing in the email box, waste of resource and everything, but nobody is reading it. Yeah? Who does it? Everybody. Simple answer, but that doesn't mean that everybody is equally accountable. Some people may be responsible, but they're not accountable. I have kind of laid out here The leader and sponsor obviously provides the vision and the resources and drives conflict resolution. Project managers are key to drive the change manager. Change owners and managers. Now these roles have come in last at least 10 years. I start seeing that consulting companies also and otherwise also organizations are putting people in charge of change management who are actually driving this as a separate thread, right, which brings that additional focus and all that, which is great. And everybody else, like managers of the teams and everybody else should know, right? This is kind of a RACI metric for that. So just to conclude, change is about people. I talked about it. Ultimately, the emotions matter. So employees are people too. If there is nothing else you remember from this session, just take this statement. Employees are people too. They will have their own challenges whenever you are doing something. So please treat them that way. Great strategy or superior technology alone cannot guarantee success. Change management is the secret ingredient for success here. And it starts from the top, but must include everyone. Okay? And talked about the structured framework. So that's pretty much summarizes. This cartoon actually is a beautiful depiction of what we typically do. We hire a director of change management to help the strategies, but we actually do not build strategies for employees that they will embrace themselves, right? So I thought this is a very pertinent reminder to us on that. So thank you so much for your attention. Any questions, I'm happy to take.
Thank you so much, Ramanarayan, sir.
Thank you.
Just one question,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah, just one question. This is regarding the change. Whenever we implement something like, so for example, in the organization, we are introducing the ticket booking system.
Yeah.
Let's say
Ticketing
FCM and other thing. So lot of efforts and the change, you can say kind of trainings are required in that. But the same thing with the Make My Trip, no training, nothing. So what is the difference between the two things?
See individual adapting versus organization adapting. Yeah. Very nice example. You will struggle as an individual, learn yourself. But when the company is providing training, you will not pay attention. You will be on your phone. That's the difference. Any other questions? Thank you very much for listening in after this lunch session. Really, thank you for that.
Thank you so much, sir. So we have a time constraint, so that can be taken offline. But please stay back, and I would like to invite Mr. Atul from Trident to please come forward and felicitate him.
Thank you, thank you.
Can we hear a round of applause for him?
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much once again.